Hey, this is Jay.
And this is Chelsea.
Welcome to the Shifting Perceptions podcast.
We are bringing you inspiration to live a more creative lifestyle because our favorite people are the ones that choose the path less traveled. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 20th episode. This is Chelsea Alders. This week we sat down with a singer-songwriter out of San Diego named Tristan Prettyman. You may know her from her collaborations on chart-topping singles with everyone from Jewel to Jason Mraz and G-Love. Tristan took time away from mom life to chat with us about her next chapter. She's open, honest, and brutally real in so many aspects of her life. In this interview, Tristan candidly discussed what it's like to break open and let the world hear your pain. She lets us know how her relationship and breakup with Jason Mraz affected her personally and her career, what it was like allowing music to tell her stories, and then we move through each chapter in her life and how it has affected her creative process. For those of us wondering how to keep adjusting our sails to relationships, breakups, happiness, motherhood, fatherhood, public scrutiny, turning away from our art, and then asking it to take us back, jump in and fall in love with Tristan. Her story is so inspiring, and it only builds up anticipation for what is coming down the road for her. I'm so excited for you guys to hear this one. I've been a longtime fan, as you can hear in this interview. Enjoy every second.
Hey everyone, this is Jay Alders. Just a couple super quick things before we jump into the episode with Tristan. I wanted to give you some links while you're listening. So Tristan at Instagram is at Tristan Prettyman. Her website is tristanprettyman.com, and of course you can find her on Spotify or iTunes or Pandora or whatever music thing you use to listen to tunes. She's also been pursuing a career as a health coach, which you're going to hear about. And on Instagram, you could find her at The Good Path SD or thegoodpathsd.com. And in real life, I'm an artist, in case you didn't know, and I wanted to give you guys a way to find me and see what I'm doing. On Instagram, I'm at jalders or jalders.com on the old interwebs. And my amazing wife, Chelsea, is a birth doula. And you can see what that is and find out more about her on Instagram at ommamasdoulas or at ommamasdoulas.com. Or her personal Instagram is at Chelsea Alders. And let's see what else. If you haven't done so already, can you please click subscribe while you're listening so you're connected with us as we release new episodes. And one last thing, and then we'll jump in to this awesome episode. Even though we pay money for a, in quotes, fast internet connection, we had such trouble the day that we interviewed Tristan. We had like one technical issue after the other, and then we finally got things working, and our internet was like super crappy. So some of the audio is less than par of what we're used to. There are a couple little parts where like some of the words got jarbled up, just a couple parts, but in the context of what Tristan's saying, you can kind of understand, you can fill in the blanks in your head. That said, don't let that stop you from listening, because this interview is incredible. We're such big fans and really loved every bit of this.
Let's jump in. Hi, Tristan. How are you?
I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
We're doing great. We're like so excited to talk to you today. Like really, really stoked. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for wanting to talk to me. I'm honored.
Oh, stop.
Oh,
well,
God.
I feel like it's probably been 15 years of us listening to your music. We really do adore your writing and your sound and everything. So, I mean, to be able to do this is exciting. We're all in today.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Yeah. Well, I want to go in a lot of different directions because I think like I'm really curious about all the new stuff since motherhood and all the chaos in your life the past couple of years. But what I really want to hear about first is just the beginning, like where you started. I know you attribute a lot of things to your dad just in researching the past couple of days. I want to hear like those first rock star moments where you were like, oh, I can like play a guitar and write music. Like, let's talk about your history a little bit.
First of all, I still can't play guitar.
Oh, stop.
But I'm just feeling very out of music mood the last little while. So It's like, I just need to get back on the saddle.
Yeah.
Is that because of like becoming a mom? You're saying that? Like you're kind of feeling off since parenthood?
I don't know if you've ever like taken a break from painting and you're just a bit rusty.
Yeah.
Yes, totally.
I kind of just feel like I can recall this time in my life and I was just so laser focused and knew how all my songs went and, pick up the guitar and play a show at any point. And I just feel like I literally have dreams sometimes where, they're like nightmares rather, where I'm in a show and it's like, I forget how all the words go and I don't know how to play guitar and I'm just like totally blow it.
That's like the like caught with your pants down on stage type of moments, right?
Yeah, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm just so far from it right now.
I completely relate to that. Like I know with painting, I go through like after I finish a piece, I feel like wiped out, and then I feel like especially since becoming a dad, like your mind is just like so spread thin that like finding that zone, like finding the space for the zone, and then finding the actual zone is like extremely challenging.
I was just literally, sorry, I know we're getting away from the question that you just asked.
It's fine.
All good. We're just here to chat.
I was, yes, I was talking to this dad at Kyla's school and he was just saying, he's a musician. He plays around town. He was on the X Factor. I think he like almost won it, or maybe he did win it. And, he was saying, I'm always just trying to find the balance between being a dad and being present, but also like playing music and being present, and like how do you honor both places? And it always feels like you're just being constantly pulled in these two directions, and I can't get present in either area. Or when I'm present in one, I can't be present in the other. And I just was like, it's like not just me. Like I feel the same way,
No, and it's relatable. Like in every, I mean, it's not. So creativity and creative minds, I think it pulls a lot of energy so that it feels like it's more intense than that, but it's in every field, right? Like people, we just had another mom on here and she was saying, if I'm not like 100% just like at work when I'm at work and 100% a mom when I'm at mom, I'm going to fail at both. And it's complicated trying to find like those balances, especially I feel like I know for us, like Jay likes painting with the kids and he likes bringing that out in them. But if he's not like in a creative place, it's like switching in and seeing it in your kids. And, it's like a really interesting mind game, I think.
It's the trip, and then you want to be present with your kids. Sometimes I just feel so pulled in all the directions of like, what's the most important and what's the right thing and what should I be doing? And then, you start taking time away for your art and then you feel like guilty because maybe you're spending less time with your kids and like just the total balance. It's just the total constant.
So that kind of moves us into that next part of it. So with creating right now, like, Jay and I talk a lot about like what it takes to create and where you have to be in your headspace. And I have loved your journey. I think you've dealt with like the public eye very well and very poetically, I have to say. I think that you got pulled in ways that you didn't expect, and it's been interesting to watch just from a total outside perspective. But talk about like what it's like creating for you, and is it easier? So Jay and I always debate this fact of like it's easier to create when you're hurting, like when you're going through something hard. Do you work through that process in different ways through all these chapters? Like, is it easier, or do you use it to heal, or do you take breaks from it when you need to heal? Like, what is it like for you?
Well, it's definitely always easier to write when you're super depressed and sad.
Okay.
But, I feel like I've done so much reading and work in therapy that I don't go into those places anymore. So it's been a real challenge going through that kind of stuff. And I think when I was younger, when I first started playing music and writing, I grew up like I was picked on as a kid, and I had a great upbringing, but my dad was very he was very hard on me, like to be to keep the house clean and to act a certain way, and so I'm very like OCD almost because of my upbringing, and I'm always, everything has to be like neat and I can't like ruin anything. And like, so I never really got to be like reckless.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I mean, and so I think when I was younger and I didn't have the comparison of all the social media, writing was a way for me to kind of be a little more reckless in my thoughts and feelings, because I could like be reckless in my emotions, but not necessarily in my actions. I could just put it into music.
Well, that's what's so interesting to me when you're saying this, because I feel like a lot of the stuff, like your lyrics are what really speaks to me. Like, I just adore your writing style. I think it really like hits me hard. I love it. And I think you are pretty bold in what you talk about. Like, you don't write about other people's lives. You write about your life experience. And that's not, that is just kind of putting yourself out there, and that, I mean, it's not reckless, but you know what I mean? Like, you're like actually really
very vulnerable.
Yeah, vulnerable. That's the word I'm looking for.
And I like being vulnerable because I feel like I've gotten really good at being vulnerable through like doing a lot of therapy and just, going on stage and singing about things. I mean, when I look back on my career and I look back on like my, the breakups that I went through, like the breakup with Jason Mraz was very public, and that was very vulnerable. There's moments in there where I'm like, oh, was that really necessary? Like, I look back on the Jason chapter and I'm like, God, like, come on, get it together, TP. Like, you didn't need to go that far that way, like.
So did you meet him at a point in your life when he was already like, in quotes, like Jason Mraz, or was he just like a dude in San Diego that you knew?
No, he was just playing the coffee shops. He had like a pretty big cult following at the coffee shops when we met, and it was just when I was starting to play music. Actually, so a mutual friend of ours, Anya Marina, was having a birthday show at this coffee shop called Java Joe's, and she invited me to play, and he was also in the bill. And so I think I had seen him play once before, and then we did this show together, and it was just kind of like love at first sight. Like, I was just like enamored. I just was like 8, however, 7, I don't even know how old I was, 17, 18, and I was just like, I'm in love, like, oh my God,
yeah.
And he's like such a weirdo. He was like, whatever. I don't even know what, he's just funny and bizarre and weird. And I think I just love that. It made me like him even more.
Well, that's back to that like yin and yang of like, you were in this very controlled place in yourself, and then you found someone that was totally wacky and crazy, and you're like, okay,
that's probably like, you nailed it. So
Therapy 101 here with me, Tristan. I'm on.
That's it. I never actually realized that before, but that makes a lot of sense. Like, I just was like, wow, this guy's like smoking weed and like taking mushrooms, and he's like living in LA, and he's like all over the place, and he's like so bizarre, and he's like talking about weird shit that like people think is funny. Like, yeah, I was like just totally drawn to like, I want to be weird, and like, yeah, there was like some kind of freedom in there. Like,
yeah.
Wow. And yeah, we just became friends and emailed, and I chased him for a long time. Many tours, many girlfriends, many awkward encounters, and then we started dating, and that was kind of like my first real relationship, I would say. And also it was very public because I definitely, I'm so open with my fans and my fan base. So it was very much like a love story, but a lot of people kind of fans of both of ours. And then, we broke up, and then we got back together, and then we got engaged. And it was like, it was like kind of being in a relationship with someone, but then a whole lot of other people.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. Is that the weirdest feeling, to know that like every decision you're making that it's important to you, you have to like triple think it through, because you're like, this is going to be a part of like a million other people's lives too. Like, that has to be the most complicated emotions. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, for sure. And as long as the storyline is happy, then everybody's happy.
Right.
But the minute like you break up, or it's like trouble in paradise, people are like super quick to take sides and be really mean. And that was that was the hardest part for me, was just people being judgmental. And, people like, you never know what's going on in people's relationships, right? Like, I know that now, but like, there were so many people that just thought like, oh, it must have been like, she must have done this, or like, he must have done this. And it was like, in retrospect, it's just like we had our run, and we had like, I think we were like definitely connected at a soul level, and we had like a contract, and we were like woven in each other's lives for like a period of time. it served its purpose. And like, I have nothing but love for him, you know, but like there was a period where I was like really fucking pissed. Like,
well, it's funny because we actually saw you play when you were like very freshly pissed.
Yeah, we saw you in, so we live in Jersey, and we saw you in Asbury Park. And
so we're really good friends with G-Love actually. And he like actually was like, come out, she's going to be playing. We came and saw you, and you were in a very freshly pissed place. And I actually like loved you more for it, just so you know.
I was so pissed. I was so mad. And like in retrospect, like I keep saying, like all the therapy that I've done, and like now being married, and I'm now divorced, and I'm just like, look, we never know what we're doing or why.
No,
it's like but I'm glad that I went through it, because it did make me feel something on a really deep level, and there was like a period of time where I was just so frustrated, and so I was angry for a long time. Like anytime I'd hear a song on the radio, or like, you know, I Won't Give Up comes on, and I'm like, fuck you know. And then I'd be like, what is going on? Like, why is this still triggering me? And it took a long time to like work through the trigger, and just realizing like, this doesn't have anything to do with me. Like, we just weren't meant to be. And that's all good. Like, we're both great people. We both moved on. We're both like doing whatever makes us happy. Like, and I think being married and now divorced, it's like people grow apart, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. And that's the thing I think I've realized the most, is that we can transform relationship with people however we want. It doesn't always have to be bad, and you have to write somebody off, and now they're bad and you're good, and everybody takes sides. And it's like, I just don't subscribe to that anymore.
Well, looking at your like timeline with that stuff, so I mean, Cedar and Gold came out, and I know that kind of, it looked like it was timed with the breakup and all of that, but with writing those songs, were they all like freshly in that phase, or was it some stuff from the past? Like, where, I know you write so beautifully about your own life, but what did that process look like? Was that a therapy for you during that time, or when did that all happen?
So that was a crazy time. Because I had written the Hello record, and then I toured for about 2 years, and I was writing for my third, so I did the EP 23, then Hello, and I was writing for my third record on the label. And I was doing a lot of writing in England, which is where I wrote the Hello record. And I was having some vocal issues, and I'm pretty sure we played a show in Portugal at this festival. And most of the time at festivals, you don't get a sound check. You just get kind of a line check to make sure like everything's getting a signal.
Yeah.
And it was really windy and raining. And I just remember I just like could not hear my vocals. I totally oversang. And I'm pretty sure that's when I developed a polyp, or the beginning of one, on my vocal cords. So after that, my voice just became super hoarse, and I lost a lot of strength in my singing, and I just would kind of equate it to like, I'm just not like feeling this. Like, my heart isn't in it. Like, I don't want to write right now for a third record, you know, like I want to be home, and kind of like you're doing something and you know that your heart's not in it. And so you can't really, like, the magic isn't really coming together, and you're just not feeling it.
And that you feel all the pressure of like the career stuff at the same time. And like as an artist, I can imagine that it was so complex, because the musician inside of you had this one objective that you couldn't tap into, and then you have, you know, managers and people counting on you, and like career expectations and fan expectations. It must have been like super complex to like have all of those overlapping roles.
For sure. And I put so much pressure on myself to like, oh, I can totally pump out another record. Oh, I can totally, top the next one. Like, yeah, I got it. Like, and I was just burnt out. And so I ended up going to the doctor. I had a polyp on my vocal cord. I tried to cure it by not singing and doing speech therapy, and that didn't work. And eventually, I had to get surgery. And I remember I had a whole tour lined up. I was supposed to go back to England to make my third record. I had a batch of songs that I kind of liked, but they just felt like filler. Like, I wasn't super with any of them. Like, they were fine, but I just was sort of like, oh, I guess this is just how it goes. Like, I guess sometimes you're not, you're like some records more than others, or some songs, and I was kind of just trying to like power my way through it. And then my vocal doctor was like, you know, you've been overcompensating for this for a while, so you could go and make another record and you could tour, but you know, you might as well be better if you get the surgery and then start fresh when your voice is strong and your muscles are strong, and we can get the polyp out of there so it doesn't get worse. And so I just made the decision to cancel everything. So I literally canceled the record, the recording, I canceled the tour that was to follow, and I just said, hey, I got to take care of myself. And I think it was a really good first of many lessons of challenges from the universe of being like, hey, when are you going to put yourself first? Like, when are you actually going to stand up and take care of yourself and listen when your body says, hey, like, a bunch of shit's about to get fucked up, but it's all going to work out okay. And it totally did. And I wrote Say Anything the day before I went in for surgery. I was dating Jason at the time. I don't think we were engaged yet. That was like kind of the first song that I wrote that really just came out naturally, that I was like, oh, this is like a different vibe.
Yeah.
Like those other songs, I just needed to get through those other songs to get to this song.
So none of the ones that you had written previously made it on to this record?
None of them made it. Nope.
Okay.
Nobody's ever heard them.
That's awesome.
Did that song like come to you in like a whole piece, or like did you have a glimpse of the finished song at the first go at it? Was it like really fluid?
It was like 3/4. It was like the weirdest thing. Like I can still picture it. I was living in my little condo at the time, and I was sitting at the dining room table, and I think it was in the morning, and it just came out. The guitar part just came. The lyrics just came, and it was probably like 3/4 of the way finished. And then all the other songs came. Then, like, I think Say Anything we finished. Me and my co-writer Steve Miller, and then Dave Hodges, who's another writer. The label was kind of organizing all these people for me to go co-write with in LA, and I showed up like right after I think we decided to split up, and I had like my engagement ring on a necklace, and I was just like 3 hours late, and I was a total mess. That's when I wrote I Was Gonna Marry You, and it was like I was back in this really raw space.
Yeah. And
so in my own like whirlpool that I just not even concerned with is it good enough or whatever, like that, all of those songs just came out.
Yeah. And it was like, they just had to come out. There's no option. That's just.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think of like how, like the best way to say it, but it almost just, you're in the thick of it and you can't even think about what anyone else is going to think about it. Like I couldn't even think about what I thought about it. It just had to come out.
Like, would you say you were like completely like detached from like ego concerns at the moment? Like you were just in the flow?
Yeah, I mean, I was just such a wreck and just such a mess, and just, I mean, I would like cry on the floor and like drink a bottle of wine and like put on, just like, I was just bummed out. And then I remember he released his record, which is all like, You Broke My Heart. And I was like, oh, fuck no, that's not how this is going. I was like, that's a total lie. Like, come on, man.
It's almost like a hippie version of like gangster rappers like releasing albums against each other.
Yeah, like against each other across the way. Yeah.
I mean, I was just like, what? You're going to like pretend like you're the good person? Like, no.
So did you have to like totally black out on like social media? Because I can't even imagine like sitting and Googling myself at that point and seeing what people are saying in response to his songs versus mine.
I mean, I think at that time there was a lot of blogging going on, but not a whole lot of Instagram.
Okay. That's helpful.
But yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I think he mentioned in some interview, like, we broke up because I didn't believe in the LGBT community, and like all these people were like,
oh my God.
Then like commented to me like, you don't believe in like gay marriage, and I was just like,
What?
And I wrote him an email, and then I ended up posting it on my blog because I was like, this shit's getting out of control. Like, and I'm not going to be like, I'm going to call you out.
Oh my gosh. I like just can't even. So
I
like,
mean, looking back, I'm like, God, so entertaining. Like, how fun. It was so fun. It was just like, I just had like so much fuel to my fire. Like, and it's like, when I look back, I'm like, oh, it's very like junior high, but it's cute. It's good.
Yeah, but we all like need one like that, right? Like it just has to happen. It just happens that yours was very public. So his career was like really exploding at that point, but let's talk about what that did for your album. Like, did you feel like maybe this was just the fate that kind of led to, because that was a really big success, that album, right? Like it did really well.
Yeah, Cedar and Gold was probably my best-selling record. Definitely like my favorite batch of songs, just because I feel like those songs are like so complete. I said everything I wanted to say. I got to work with Greg Wells, who's just an amazing producer. Works with like Katy Perry and Adele, and I just had like the president of my label 100% behind me. Just like, we trust you. Like I think everyone was just kind of like, whoa, this girl's like going wherever she's going to go, like, and we just got to let her go. And I had so much freedom on that record. And Greg just really pushed me like no other producer I'd worked with. And I just feel like I just really put my heart and soul just so much into that record. Music is just there's a time and place for it, like not everyone's going to get it, but it resonated with so many people. And I think that was the best part about it, was it helped me process the breakup in my feelings. It was a way for me to like channel all of that energy into something positive.
Yeah.
And then ultimately it became the band. It became the listeners, and it helped. It just was such a transformative process across so many levels for so many people, and I'm just so grateful that I got to be a part of it, really.
I feel like, and actually Jay wrote it down as a question he wanted to ask, but I'm going to steal it from you.
Okay.
That we always both wonder with musicians, so we have like a funny story that a local friend of ours who's like, he owns like a really large business, and he actually bought, when Jay and I first started dating, an original of Jay's ex-girlfriend, and it was like, we like celebrated on the money leaving, and I was super excited to not have it in my house anymore. But I have to ask, like, are there days that you're like, I don't want to sing I Was Going to Marry You on stage? Because it's like you have to go back through it, or you've done the work and you're like, it's fine, I can honor what it was?
There was definitely, in the beginning, it was awesome. Then there was definitely a time where I was like, I don't want to sing this anymore.
Yeah.
And then there was like a phase where I was like, oh my God, shut the fuck up. Like, I'd be like singing it, and I'd be like telling myself, like, shut up.
Yeah.
And now I can sing it, and it's totally fine. It's funny because that was one of Bill's favorite songs. My ex-husband, like, and he still loves it. Like, he loves The Glass Jar, I'm Gonna Marry You, and I'd be like, I was like, so, like, really? You like those songs? And he just really likes them. So.
When you're like performing those, do you have to put yourself like in the role, like as if you were an actress, or do you sing them as though almost someone else wrote them, and you're just like going through the process of singing it as like an act as opposed to like really method acting and getting back there where you were? Like, can you sing it emotionally without screwing yourself up?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I can do it now without being emotional.
I feel like it takes a long time to get there, for sure. But you've had this whole new story now. So let's jump forward a little bit. So you married Bill, and like, I know, so how old is your son right now?
So Kylo's 3.
Awesome.
We have 2 3-year-olds, actually.
Yeah, we have
and a 5.5
twin 3-year-old boys. And being a boy mom is one of
3-year-olds.
Yeah, it's wild. Shit. Yeah, so just multiply him by 2 in your mind, and
then
enjoy
add
that
a big
for
sister.
a day. Yeah. But it's a wild ride, and I feel like everything has changed for us as far as how we work and where we find creativity and all of that. So I know you are still performing, right? Like here and there, but you haven't been like steadily touring, obviously. Is there a plan there for that? Like what's your goal for, you know, being a mom and being a musician?
I'm just trying to figure it out right now, I think. You know, when I met Bill, it was like a total whirlwind. Like we got married, we got engaged after like 8 months of knowing each other. We got married like a year later. So I got married, went on our honeymoon, came back to the West Coast, and then went to LA for like a month, and I recorded my Back to Home EP, which was, so I got dropped by my label. Labels are weird. They get bought by other labels, and then you got like these people coming in who don't know who you are. And, like, I'm not Katy Perry or Coldplay, so I didn't sell like, you know, 10 million records. So they're kind of like, hey, you're like, you gotta trim the fat. Like, so they like let me go. The lady actually was like so rude. She was like, let's be honest, like you're gonna get married now and like have kids, and like, are you really gonna be playing music?
Oh,
and I was like so insulted.
Yeah.
I was like, are you for real? Like I have like 12 songs I'm sitting on right now. And she's like, well, that's why I send them to us, and we'd love to check them out. And I was like, why would I want to be in a relationship with someone who doesn't want to be in a relationship with me? Like if there was one thing I've learned, it's why would you ever want to be with somebody who doesn't want to be with you?
Yeah.
Like that's what I learned from Cedar and Gold. Like move on.
Oh my gosh. So did you sign with someone else, or you were like, I'm going to just do this on my own?
No, I was like, I'm going to do this on my own. So my guitar player, Steve, who I've written a lot of Cedar and Gold with, was like, hey, we'll record with the band that we tour with, and we'll just have fun, and we'll make an EP. And I had a bunch of songs that I had written, so we just recorded them all and put them on an EP. And like I had taken a bunch of photos in Africa, which is where we got married, so I used those for the album cover and all the album artwork. And then Eric Hutchinson called me up, and he's like, hey, I'm going on this tour. Do you want to do it with me? And I was like, sure, sounds great. So I got an EP coming out. Like, this is great. So released the EP. I think it went to like number 19 or 20 on iTunes with zero publicity, like just fully fan, like just the fan. Like,
yeah. Well, you have a loyal listening. That's like very Ingrid Michaelson of you. I love it. I didn't know that one was just you guys.
I love Ingrid Michaelson.
Me too.
So it did really well on iTunes. It was charting, which was really exciting for no label and no really promotion or anything. And then we did the tour with Eric, which was super fun. That was like 6 weeks. And then came home and I found out I was pregnant. And then I kind of just shifted into like pregnant mode, and I just was like, it was like I was training for a marathon. I was just like,
yeah,
what am I eating and where am I working out, and like reading all the books, and I kind of just like transferred into like mom mode. And then when I had Kylo, I was like, okay, when he's 6 months, I'm gonna get back to playing music. I had actually just signed with a new manager, and then I kind of just wanted to put everything on hold. I didn't really want to, like, in theory, I wanted to write and keep working on music and be like super Kelly Clarkson about it and like keep it going. But like my heart was like, I just want to enjoy being pregnant. Like this is happening. Who knows if it's the only time I'm going to be pregnant or whatever. Like I want to be fully present. I want to enjoy it. And so I just told everybody, like, I'm just going to enjoy being pregnant and taking this time for myself. And like, and then when Kyla was 6 months, I had said, oh, I'll go back to playing music. And I just didn't want to. Like, I didn't realize, you're like breastfeeding and you're just there with, it's a 24-hour thing. So it was like,
wasn't that so mind blowing for you to be like, oh, most people, like when you hit that 3-month mark and you're like, most people go back to work right now, like full-time work. Like, isn't that the most shocking feeling? And you're like, I'm so not ready for that.
Oh, And I just thought like, pumping, writing, and I'm going to be just wanting to be with my kid. Like, and I was in a place where I could just be with my kid. And I just thought I want to just enjoy my baby.
Yeah. So is anything coming to mind, like writing wise, or you were like on a full just break? Like when you break, like you're just out?
I mean, it's like the minute I got pregnant, I had just zero, like, the well turned off.
I totally relate to that as an artist. Like I was saying earlier, as soon as I had kids, I just wanted like everything to be focused on them, and I didn't want to miss anything. But then I also felt like a pressure, which I'd love to know if you have this too, where it's like, okay, I have this talent. I feel like I should be just painting pictures of my kids all day. But then I found, okay, I could do that, but then I'm taking time away from being a dad to like paint pictures of them, to like, it was like a weird thing to try to balance out, like feeling like an artist that's supposed to be creating something and being a dad that's supposed to be in the moment. Did you have that as a mom and a musician?
I feel like I'm the only person that's going to regret ever doing or not doing something at the end of my life is myself. And the only things I care about now are making sure that like Kylo knows I love him and that he respects me as a person, and really like what Bill thinks, as his dad.
Yeah.
And other than that, I try to just be like, I just need to do the things that I want to do, because I'm the only one that's going to regret not doing or doing things at the end of the day anyways.
Right.
But absolutely, I put so much pressure on myself. And then I realized is that it's all just coming from me. Like there's nobody else out there telling me like I have to do anything.
Yeah.
And so that's just something I try to remember is like at the end of the day, I should just do whatever is going to make me happy and fulfilled and is in Kylo's best interest, and the family's best interest, really.
So talk a little bit about like the nutrition stuff. So that was like always part of like my draw to just following your social media was we're vegan, as you're plant-based, right? Like mostly vegan. But you're also doing coaching now, correct?
Yeah, it was like the coaching, like an attempt to like kind of reinvent yourself. Like when your creative well went dry, was that like a reach for like who am I now? I like want to like do something different.
So I have to be honest. When Bill and I got together, he asked a lot of questions about what my music was about and what my songs were about, and when I wrote that song and when I wrote this song, and just a lot of like questions all the time about music. And it made me, there was something inside of me that where I didn't feel safe to really write, and I didn't want to be bombarded with questions. So I kind of just stopped playing music.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like very honest.
That is something that we've since worked through. We didn't know each other very long before we got engaged. It was a very much a huge whirlwind. I think that if I could have do anything differently, it would have been wait a little bit longer before we like jumped into marriage, because it's impossible to really know somebody very well that early on. And I felt a lot of pressure from him to write songs about him, and that was a lot of insecurity on his end, which we've worked through all of this, which is why I can talk about it now. But it was very hard in the beginning, and in retro, like when I look back, I realized like, wow, I just turned music off because I didn't want to be interrogated anymore about like what everything was about and why. And I just didn't feel like I had the safe space to create and just be uninhibited and write about what I wanted to write about. So the nutrition was, like when Kylo was 6 months, I was like, hey, I'm not really feeling the pull to go back to music, but I had like this amazing pregnancy and I had a great delivery, and I really feel like the health and the wellness and the way that I took care of myself, and how I tried to balance it after Kylo was born and just transitioning to being a mom. I feel like all of that just helped me handle like transitioning into becoming a mother and bouncing back after pregnancy. And we had a nanny at the time who had also done the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And I was kind of in this weird space where like Kylo was 6 months, so he was becoming less dependent on me. I had more time in the day, and I was feeling like I needed to be doing something, or I wanted to be doing something, but it wasn't necessarily music. And one day she said, I think I was reading Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic.
Oh, great book.
One of our favorites.
Love that.
And I was like, okay, what am I curious about? Like, follow the curiosity, and it will lead me back to hopefully music. And I remember we were I can't remember, maybe we were in Mexico or something. And she said, you know, I think that you would really love Institute for Integrative Nutrition. You should check it out. I did it. It's like great. You can become a health coach. And I was like, well, I'm not really like, I'm going to be a health coach. Like, she's like, yeah, but you're really into all of this stuff. And I think if anything, you can just do it for your family and your own learning and your own knowledge. And I was like, you know what? I never went to college because I didn't ever know what I wanted to do or study. But now I feel like, yeah, I am really interested in like health and wellness. And I am super interested in learning about all the different dietary theories and how our bodies work, physiology and organs. And like, yeah, I am really curious about all of this stuff. And so I ended up enrolling in the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, which was a year-long program. And I just loved it.
I feel like sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, what I love about the timing of this too, just like in my world, like I find so many moms like who had so many moms that 3-year mark with kids is really when like big transformations happen as far as like either I'm going to start something new or I have to figure out who I am again. And it is like a really transformative place because I think at 3, they're suddenly really independent and that feels terrifying. So it's like either, you know, for some, okay, I'm going to have another kid or like I got to figure out who the hell I am. And it seems to be happening like right on cue in your life. So it's so relatable for so many. It's really interesting.
That really resonates with me a lot. So that feels like you nailed it. Like I just feel like I'm like, whoa, who am I? And what do I think?
Yeah.
How do I feel? And like, and maybe it's like a combo, and maybe it's not even a social media. Maybe it's just that you're like this little being is dependent on you, and you're just so fixated on all about the kids and like molding and teaching and learning that you're like, oh wait, I gotta like remember to fill up my well so that I can keep giving, because that's one thing I love about Bill is like he's always like, hey, you gotta take care of you, because if like you're not happy, then like none of us are not happy.
Just getting back to my very first question that I do want to ask about this, like what was your vision for music from the start? Like did you see yourself as like, I'm going to be a rock star, or were you just like day by day, like I just love doing this, so I'm going to keep doing it?
No, I was going to college and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing or what I'm studying. I grew up in San Diego and grew up surfing. Total random chain of events that landed me on the Shelter soundtrack, which was one of Taylor Steele's surf films.
Yeah. Okay. So we lost you there for a second. So I'm gonna just get you to reiterate the part about how did you end up on Taylor Steele's soundtrack?
I was playing guitar at Benji Weatherly's house one night, and his roommate came home, who works for Taylor Steele and was doing all the music for this film. And he was like, "Who are you?" And I was like, "Who are you?" And he was like, "Well, we're doing a surf film, and we're recording the whole soundtrack on a mini disc player, and half of it's already been recorded in like Byron Bay. But like, it'd be great to have a girl on it, and like these songs we're playing would be perfect." And I'm like, "Well, I don't even have like a whole song. Like I just have like pieces of songs." And he's like, "That's cool. Why don't you just come down to the office and we'll just record them all, and then we could probably just use like we don't need a whole song." And I was like so nervous.
Yeah.
And I went down and recorded like 10 halves of songs and played anything at all, which I just kind of freestyled. And that was like the one that kind of was the longest, but I really was like making up the whole thing as I was going along. And that ended up going on the surf film. And then from there, it was like people, were kind of into, it's like, that was like the time of like Jack Johnson and Diamond and Zila and Ben Harper. And then I was kind of in this mix of those artists. And then I was, they were getting emails like, well, who is this girl? Like, does she have any records? And I think like Beautiful Girls were out then, and maybe Mishka. And I didn't have anything recorded.
Yeah.
And so that guy, Joe was like, well, I'll help you. I can like stand in with your manager. Like, let's make an EP. And so I ended up going to Ojai, to Todd Hannigan's studio, who's a good friend of the Malloy brothers, and we recorded an EP. And then I was selling out at like the pizza shop I was working at, and we would like send it around, and I was like kind of playing shows, and And then it ended up in Jason Mraz's hands, which is G-Love's manager. And one day I just get a call out of nowhere, like, hey, you want to come open a G-Love tour? You know, it like starts in 4 weeks. It starts in Texas. You know, we'll pay you $50 a night. And I was like, holy shit, like, G-Love, like.
How old were you there?
I was probably like 22.
Okay.
And so my brother and I rented like a Hyundai little roller skate in the car and drove to Texas and jumped on tour. I mean, it was like so crazy.
Yeah, and like if you could have even like tried to predict that that's the way each of these decisions would have happened, like there's zero way.
So how did your music? I would love to like know like before that, like how did your music style get to that point? Like had you said you didn't really have any full songs. How did you, what shifted to all of a sudden, like, okay, I'm just going to bang out a bunch of songs? Like, how do you go from not having one finished song to, like, having a bunch of songs, a record, you know, being on tour with G-Love? Like, how does that happen? What changed creatively with you?
You know, I don't even know. I would say the thing that's coming to mind right now is, like, I just set my mind to it, because I don't really know.
So maybe just, like, direct intention all of a sudden?
I think I was writing songs, and again, there was barely YouTube. There was maybe MySpace. There was no one to tell you, like, here's how to write a song.
Yeah.
Like, I was just kind of writing songs, and was like, okay, chorus.
So was that
bridges, like I never wrote bridges. Yeah, I don't even know.
So how did you like? I just don't get it. I want to know how you did it. I want to know the secret here. Because like,
give me the secret sauce.
I've like noodled on my guitar for so many freaking years, and like nothing amazing has ever come out of me. Like, what did you emulate people first? Like, did you hear singers and just do covers, and then just like kind of alter it until it was your own song, or like, is there any?
Like, never been good at covers. Loved Ani DeFranco when I was a kid, when I was like 15. So that's pretty much the reason I started playing music, was because my brother's friend gave me an Ani DeFranco mixtape. I still have it. When I was 15, for my 15th birthday, I was really focused on writing songs, and I've always written all of my own lyrics. So
do you find that like the lyrics come first, like poetry, and then you find music to go on top of it? Or do you have like a melody in your head and you're like, oh, what words would go with this? Let me figure it out. Like, I'm sure it happens many different ways, but do you find one particular way seems to be the most comfortable if you have to like bang out a couple songs on a deadline, or if you feel like I'm just going to write a song right now? Like, what would be a typical process for you?
I think in the past, definitely lyrics first. Like, I remember as a kid just scribbling lyrics on everything, or like, I get a lot of lyrics when I'm driving. So I'll just put them into my phone, like a little voice memo. I generally have like an idea of the vibe of the song and the tone that I want to use in the chords, and then like I have a vibe in my mind, and then the lyrics kind of follow, and then we just build from there. But, you know, to be honest, it happens so many different ways. I mean, some songs take 5 years, sometimes songs take 5 minutes. It really just depends. But normally, like, when I get like a lyric and a melody going, then I can usually just finish a song pretty quick.
Are you starting to teach your son music? Like, is that something that is important to you, or are you just going to let him see if he's into it?
You know, I think our approach is like to not push him into any area. He's definitely super musical. He has I have a playlist, a Spotify playlist of all his favorite songs. So he's like, now he's doing the thing where he's like, can you strum the guitar like this? Let me show you, with all your fingers like this. And I'm like, what? Like, you know, and he's like, can you play the hands to your hand song? And like, that just melted my heart. Like, when you request as simple as it should be, I was like, you're like requesting my song.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah, that is completely amazing.
Like, I lost my marbles. But I think, you know, I sang a lot when I was pregnant, and I played a couple shows when I was pregnant. And so I think he's like pretty musical, I would say, just naturally. You know, and if he gravitates towards that, then awesome. And if he just ends up being a music lover, then great. Like, Bill has a piano at his house, and he's like just on that thing, and like he pretends he's playing. I'd like to go to his show sometime when he's older.
Right. I know we say that all the time about the kids. Like, I mean, statistics are probably that, you know, one or two of them might not like art, but they all love it right now because kids love art. And just to see that start to develop in them and have maybe a little bit more of an eye than other kids, you're like, come on, let's do it. I want to see you paint.
When you are, I have a question about like performing. So when you have a gig and you're feeling like things are just off, do you have like a go-to move? Like you're like, okay, now's the time I bust out like Song for the Rich. Like, do you have like a move where you're like, just reset everything?
Like on stage?
Yeah, if you're like, oh, the audience is not feeling it, or I'm in a shitty mood, or I just need some really good vibes right now. Like, do you have like a go-to joke or song, or like?
I have a go-to bourbon.
A go-to what? What'd you say?
A go-to bourbon. I have a
go-to bourbon. Okay.
All right.
Start telling some awkward story that's probably like too much information about something, or I'll tell like some dumb joke, or I try to design the set to be a flow and not really just like an intuitive thing. Like usually it's like a slower song and then an upper song, and you kind of space them out. So if we ever have kind of a slow moment in the show, I know that like there's going to be a song coming up that I'm even more excited to play, or I have a good intro for or something. So I just get into the zone and like.
Yeah, I also feel like. Yeah, well, when you've been doing it like long enough, you also just have your fans that are going to keep it going the way that you want it going because they know what your shows are like, you know? So it's like you have consistency, I'd imagine, in that place.
Yeah.
I have a question about like creative block, which happens to like every artist and musician in the planet, obviously. So like when you're working on a new song and you feel that like glimpse of inspiration take you, and I don't know how long your songs take, but let's say they take, weeks or months or whatever it might be, and you're in the process and you like completely lose inspiration. Are there like little hacks or tricks that you use to kind of find your way back to it?
No. I usually just at that point I'm like, okay, take a break. Like, because I think what I've realized is as much, like, I get, I think like right now I'm in the phase where I am really excited to play music again, and I have a studio at my house, and I am like so pumped to create, but it's like the creativity hasn't caught me yet, and I can't force it. And I've learned over the years that like, I just can't force it. Like when I try to force a song, it's not fun for me. The song ends up feeling forced, and then the song has a feeling of forcedness in it.
Right.
Kind of anxiety. So at that point, it's like, okay, just step away and I go do something else.
Do you find
the yoga? Yeah,
I was going to say, do you do like meditation or yoga or take a couple of hits of weed or like something to like snap you back into it?
All of the above. Like weed, either. Like my engineer is so funny. He loves weed, and like it's like we've had it go two ways. Like sometimes we like take a couple hits of a joint, and it's like, oh my god, we're in the studio till like 2 a.m, and it's just like creativity's flying, and it's like we got all these crazy ideas, and then like sometimes in the morning you go back and listen, and you're like, oh my gosh, that was like fucking awesome, and then sometimes you're like, what were we thinking?
Yeah.
You're like, what? And then other times you take like a couple hits of weed, and you're like, everyone's just like too stoned, like, and you can't even focus.
Yeah.
This is the wild card for sure.
I feel like Jay sometimes with weed is like I'm like, well, how did it go? Because he'll come down and paint for like 6 or 7 hours or whatever it is, and then he's like, I don't know. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? You've been staring at the same painting for 6 hours, and he's like, I have to look at it tomorrow. Like, I don't know. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, like I felt like a genius for about an hour, and then I felt like the worst painter on the planet, and then I felt like a genius again, and I don't know. We'll see tomorrow out.
Don't worry, you're in good company. I feel the same way. Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to turn my brain off most of the time these days. Like, I'm on a social media break right now. I'm really trying to just get back to a place where I can turn my brain off. There's just so much noise, and I'm really sensitive to, I'll just get sucked in Instagram, or like, that's something for this year that I'm trying to just turn off the noise. Like, go inside, like, go into my, like, creative den. And I've, like, joked to a couple people, like, I might just not even come back to Instagram. So I'm like, I feel like my life has improved like by 1,000%, like their quality of life since being off Instagram. I know that probably sounds dramatic, but
no, I get it.
No, I completely understand. It's difficult, especially when like you're molding. I forget. We just interviewed Ben Lee, and he said something about like the what did he call it? Like it's like what we're passing on to our children, like this Instagram fortune or whatever.
Yeah.
He worded it really well, but it was like we have no choice but to like build our empire, like our own personal little Instagram empire of who we are, and we're like molding it. And it's gonna be set there forever, and it's true. It's like, when you take a break from having to like think about all that, it's really freeing. It's very nice. I need one, that's for sure. So it sounds like the co-parenting thing's going really well with you guys though, right? So you guys split, but it's amicable, right? Like it's not the drama of Jason Mraz and the chaos. Like it seems like it's been going really well.
Oh, but Jason Mraz was more dramatic than my divorce. Yeah. No, we're super amicable and we're best friends. Where I always say, like, I really like one the co-parent department because, you know, our focus is Kylo and, you know, we love each other. We love the shit out of each other. Yeah. We just realized, like, maybe we didn't quite know each other as friends. We're just so solid. We're super good friends and, you know, we're all about kindness. We've also done a lot of therapy. I mean, Bill and I have done therapy since I think he took me to the therapist on our like third date.
Were there some like realizations in therapy that like just completely blew you away? Like, I'm only asking because it seems like you're very open and you share everything anyway. So I might as well like let's go into your therapy session, Tristan. Was there anything that you walked away with and you're like, holy fuck, I didn't know that about me?
Yeah, I mean, so like growing up, I think I mentioned before, like my dad was like tough. You know, he's like, I love my dad and we're really close and we flip all the time. And our relationship is definitely better as we've become older. But there was very much a sense growing up of like, I need my dad's approval for everything I do. And I need to like make sure I'm doing it like to the level that like, because my dad's very much perfectionist. He was a contractor and so there was always this level of like things needing to be done a certain way and needing approval. And that was a really big dynamic in Bill and I's relationship, which we realized is like, he was almost like a dad to me, like a parent in our relationship and not so much as an equal. And I was always like leaning on him for like needing his approval. And he would always kind of like get after me about something. And then I would feel like I'm in trouble. Like when you feel like you're in trouble with your parent, like you let them down.
Yeah.
So that was like a dynamic that we uncovered. It's like parent-child dynamic, where we realized like, holy shit, like I'm basically the child and you're the parent. Like, and I feel like I can. And so that was, and that's like both people playing into that. You know, it's not anyone's fault. That's obviously my trigger, and then Bill played into that with his own thing. So that's something we've definitely worked on is like allowing each other just to be more who we are and like realizing like he's got his way of doing things and I have my way of doing things. But things that we do line up, which work out really well for co-parenting, is like morally we very much have the same values. We're very into kindness. We want to understand each other. We really know how to communicate now, so we don't really have a lot of fight. When something comes up, we know how to like use it immediately rather than take it personal or get into like a huge blowout over it, which is really nice.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think like we did this form of therapy called the Mago therapy, which was created by this guy, Harbo Hendricks. And it's all about like, you have these like things as a child and things that have happened in your life that like you might not even think of as something that was really traumatic, but it formed like a wounding, and through your partner or whoever you pick, you basically choosing a partner to help heal your wounding. So for us, we're very much still in a relationship. You know, we're not married anymore, but we are co-parents and we are in relationship with each other. We are friends, so we still constantly are working on our relationship and healing our wounding, you know, through each other. And then we start throwing like other people into the mix, and they're like, oh my God, they're going to like tap into my window.
Yeah, right. I know. And that goes on forever because really like then you start to think of the friends you choose and the relationships you've had in the past and you start to see it all, like the dots start to connect. It's really interesting.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I think for us, it's really important for us to like heal our wounding and try to heal as much with each other because that's ultimately going to heal Kylo.
Yes.
And keep him from getting those woundings. And, you know, we want him to be able to see that like his parents aren't together, but like they still very much love each other. And like dad's always welcome at mom's house and mom's always welcome at dad's house. And for him to know that like it didn't have to, you know, it wasn't just like, we still believe we can give him, you know, we were really worried about that, obviously. Anybody who gets divorced and has kids is worried they're going to like screw their kids up. But we've just chosen to be like, we're not going to let it, you know, we're hopefully going to do our best to not let it screw them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, divorce or not, like we're worried every day we're going to screw our kids up. So
yeah, for real. So seeing that the divorce was so amicable, which is amazing, does that mean you didn't have enough suffering to get some good material out for a new album?
No.
I know it is interesting, like just being, you know, with any creative person out there, you see them go through things and then you're like, I wonder what's coming from that, like in their creative world, you know?
Do you have another album coming out? Do you have new material? Tell us what to look forward to musically, if anything.
Well, I will say, so, you know, I kind of mentioned before, like when Bill and I got together, I kind of turned the writing off because I was feeling very, like interrogated the whole time about like what I was writing about. And I'd never been with someone who was like so curious about what the songs are about and like what was going on and what was happening. And then of course we had like, you know, we never had like a terrible marriage. It was more, we just realized like, I don't know, like Kristen, I don't know if this like dynamic is gonna like work long term. So there was never like any bad songs that came from the marriage or the relationship or the breakup. And it was like when I started dating afterwards, oh my God, I've written like 7 songs about just like dipshits. Like, I'm just like, and I'm like, this is so fucked up. Like, I'm writing songs about like people like I didn't write any songs about my marriage or like my wonderful, you know, co-parent ex-husband. Like, but I'm writing these songs about like these experiences I'm having. But,
it kind of like makes me think about when you were talking about social media, like you were saying about like, oh, my friend's making quinoa, like what am I really getting from that? It like kind of like begs the question. So like if our collective creativity is so driven by negative experiences, like what does that say about the creativity itself? Because I go through that too. Like now that I'm happier and I have children and a marriage and I'm not like as angsty and pissed off at the world, it's definitely harder to like create when you're like not really just pissed off at everything. And I also like gave up the news like 6-7 months ago. I stopped watching the news as in an attempt to like avoid negativity. And I'm like way less pissed, so I'm not painting as much. It's like a double-edged sword, you know?
I'm just like, how does Johnson do it? Like, how really do we all have to move to Hawaii and like have banana pancakes? Like, I'm just like, how does he do it? It's Ojima, you know? He's like got all these. I don't know.
G-Love's just like a machine, though. He's like a different freak of nature. He just like writes a song a day.
He is such a machine. Yeah. I mean, such a machine. But, you know, that's always been something in my mind. Is like, how do I tackle songwriting in a positive way with the same drive and passion that you have when you're like stuff or like bummed about something? It's always been like the question in the box for me. Like, how do I, you know, tap that? And I think for me, the closest way that I've been able to get closer to answering that is like writing songs that don't have to do with my personal life. Writing songs for movies, writing songs for like treatments, for projects, for docuseries, for, you know, taking an idea, watching, you know, really just writing for other people is a way to kind of get closer to that. But it's for sure, yeah, it's a total challenge. But I really want to do a kids album, like a kids EP. And I wrote this song with Pat Stevens when I was in England on my Hello record that didn't make the album. And I've been sitting on it for 10 years.
Oh my God.
And it just occurred to me like, oh, that's like a perfect kid song. It's like this really sweet song. So I've been singing it to Kyla every night and like he loves it. So that was like a kind of a cool epiphany I had recently. Was like, oh, that song, like I wrote that and that, like, I've been waiting. Like, what is that? Like, that's got to go on something. Like, what's it belong to? So I think that goes on the kids album. I'd really love to do like a kids record. And then I have like a handful of other songs that I'm sitting on, but I've really been, now that I've taken the time away from music, as I've come back, I'm kind of exploring with different sounds and genres, like a little more electronic, a little more programmed, a little less, like some acoustic stuff in there too. I actually did write a song about being in a yoga, like something that one of my yoga teachers said inspired a full song. So I guess that was like out of happiness.
Yeah, there you go.
But again, I'm just trying to get out of like thinking so much about things and just getting into the flow of letting things kind of come. So there's definitely like music coming in the future. And I think that I'll probably, I don't know if it's going to end up on a record, but I might just start releasing just stuff like here and there, like singles, and just kind of play around with my sound a little bit.
Awesome.
It seems like when you told us the story of when you were like 19 or 20 and you like, I asked you about like, well, how did you like just bang out all these songs when you didn't have any finished song? It seemed like there was a level of like self-incentivizing. Like you had your eyes on the prize. Like you had this big thing in front of you. Like I can get this song in a Taylor Steele movie and I can go on tour and like, so I'm going to make it work. Like I wonder if like it's creating that like juicy kale salad in front of you, whatever that should mean for your current life. Like if you have something to work towards, if that would like drive you to like banging out these projects that are like sitting within you. I wonder if it's just a matter of getting hungry again.
I think it totally is. Yeah. It's a matter of being hungry. It's you know, for me, it's like every day I'm just kind of like, okay, what am I passionate about? Like, where is my heart? While I love playing shows, I'm less excited to go on tour again. I think I wish I had back to songs I really, really loved. But for me, I think where I'm at now is I really love to write for other artists. I'd love to write for like TV and film. And I'd love to kind of I want to just go into my studio and like experiment and just be like, no inhibitions, just whatever comes out. And I think it's just a matter of like getting into that place and getting back into that groove. Which is just, it's just getting hungry. It's just getting focused and just saying like, okay, that's what we're going to do right now.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what comes out of you, Tristan. I do have like one question before I ask my last question, which I've always just wanted to know. Is the song Rebound a true story?
Yes.
It is?
Yeah, I was at Trader Joe's. I had just broken up with somebody.
Shut up.
I ran into this guy that I knew growing up, and he was like over by the produce. And I used to be part of a song, like a songwriter challenge group with a bunch of artists, and so you get like Bob Schneider was in charge of it. He'd send out like a tag phrase or like a word, and you'd have to write a song that included that word.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, that is fun.
It was just like, actually, that was like I was writing a lot of songs. And actually, a lot of songs that ended up on a lot of records actually came from that songwriting challenge. Because the goal was just to write anything. Like, it didn't even have to make sense. It just had to include this word. So it was like, you know, really just to kind of get your creativity going and loosen up your brain and that kind of thing. And so, what was it? The title was, the challenge was Go to Bed. So I came home from Trader Joe's and I wrote the Rebound, and then I ended up going on Fever and Gold.
Oh my gosh, it's awesome.
I just created the show, and I was like, this song is about that guy right there. He never made out. Like, I just ended up writing the song about him, and I think he ended up dating my friend.
Wait, you never dated him?
He No, we never dated. It was just like I just wrote the song. Like,
wait, so it was like an actual banana that wasn't metaphorical.
Yeah, it was just an actual banana.
That's so awesome.
Wow, I totally thought that was very phallic. I didn't know it was an actual banana.
Well, it's all of those things. It's like it's to be left open for interpretation, I guess.
That's so awesome. I actually remember you like that was like part of the like I realized you were still angry at the show when you played it. You played that in Asbury, and it was really good though. You play it well live. It was a good show. Our last question that we ask everyone is just, if I had to drop you back into your childhood kitchen, what's the first thing you think of?
Oh, my childhood kitchen. Oh, man. I mean, so many things are coming to mind. I would probably say Kraft mac and cheese.
Okay. I feel like that's one of mine too. Fish sticks and Kraft mac and cheese.
Kraft mac and cheese. A kid cuisine. We had a lot of kid cuisine growing up. I grew up on a lot of processed food.
Yeah. Yes. Well, at least you've turned that around. Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Epic. Thank you, Tristan. This was a great conversation. Like we've been looking forward to talking to you. And
we finally made it.
Yeah, we have so many mutual friends, and we've been like just manifesting having an opportunity to chit chat. So thank you.
Oh, well, it was a long time coming. I'm so thankful that you guys thought of me, and it was wonderful to chat today.
Holy smokes. That was intense.
And also 20 episodes. We did it.
I was almost, I forgot to tell you, I was actually considering delaying this one to be like the 23rd episode, just to like pay a tribute to Tristan's 23 infatuation.
That would have been sweet.
This was definitely a long time coming. I was thinking on the drive back home about how many near encounters we had with Tristan over the past 12 or 15 or whatever it is years.
Yeah, I know. We'll say I just feel like we probably would have seen her live more often had we been West Coasters at the time. But she just like, I just love talking to her.
Do you remember? So I know we saw her in Philly, I think the first time. She popped out, I think, when G-Love was playing at the Electric Factory.
Oh, yeah, and I lost my mind, yes.
And
absolutely.
Then which we didn't touch upon in the episode, and I don't even know if she knows, but I was in Brazil for 2 weeks with her former manager, Jason, which was also another connection. And then a year or so after that, we were in Malibu for that art event that I had for Emergency. And she had actually, I don't know if you remember, she actually painted a surfboard.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And we were hoping she'd show up, and she didn't. Do you remember that?
Yeah. It's funny because Matthew McConaughey was there, and we didn't care about him, but we were hoping Tristan would show up.
This is true. This is one of these like conversations that you anticipate, and you're wondering if the person is going to match what you think, and you never know with like celebrities or talented people or famous people or whatever, like what they'll be like. And I got to say, she's even more real and authentic than I even imagined. And she's so real on social media, you almost feel like you know her.
I know. Well, she does make you feel like you can ask anything and say anything, which is pretty cool. Which, by the way, is one of her song titles.
Yes,
say anything.
Nice little plug there.
I'm such a fangirl.
You really are. What was one of the things, or a couple of the things that hit you most? Because I definitely had a few that I want to mention. But
well, I just think she's relatable right now because we're in the same chapter of life of like having young kids and feeling sort of like sucked dry and not knowing like what you're gonna do next. And I actually like loved the dietitian route and all of that, because that's literally like every mom that is in my chapter right now of like a 3-year-old to a 5-year-old. It's like we're all sort of like pivoting and figuring out exactly like what we want to be spending our time doing. So it kind of meant a lot to me to hear that like even though you've been like on tour and dated Jason Mraz and Bill Maris and like had this crazy career, you're still literally going through the exact same changes and phases that, a normal mom goes through. So
yeah, we didn't even touch upon her ex-husband. Like he's super well-known, like incredibly ginormously rich, got like $1 bazillion, which obviously wasn't relevant to the conversation, so we didn't mention it. It had no bearing on what we were talking about, but just another little feather in her cap of a reason she could be cocky or she could be different or more entitled, and she's so down to earth.
Yeah, no, she's very, very, very relatable. Well, what about you? What was one of the things that...
I mean, the things you mentioned definitely hit me, like being a parent. I think as an artist, some of the stuff that like it really, really hit me hard was the idea or the struggle of of like how creativity follows you through the different phases of your life and finding, I don't know, like really struggling with trying to figure out where that creativity fits into your life now as like a parent, as like someone that's married, or in her case, was married. I think like, I can't speak as a musician, but as an artist, there's an aspect of it that's very selfish. It's very almost like an artistic version of like lust, and like to figure out how that thing that was like my currency in life fits into my life as a dad and a husband and a responsible grown-up. Like to hear her having those same struggles was like, I don't know, it was comforting, and almost I really, really related to how she was kind of like reinventing herself, because I feel like the podcast and me, writing my book that I've been doing, I feel like those are my versions of what she's been doing with the health stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's like my doula stuff. I mean, I wasn't doing any of this until I had kids.
You're a perfect example. I mean, was that part of it for you?
Yeah, that's what I was mentioning, is just like that pivot of like you have these young kids and your time. And I mentioned this in the interview, like your time away needs to be valuable, and like being away from them doing something I didn't care about and felt useless.
Yeah. I mean, you had such a giant jump that I definitely didn't see coming. None of us saw coming.
Sorry.
No, it's great. It's like you were... When I met you, you were so into like certain music and literature and lyrics, and then you got sucked into the corporate thing, like the corporate job, entrepreneurial business owner thing that I did too. Yeah. And then to see you make that ginormous jump, it's not any more, I don't know, any more of a totally 90-degree switch than Tristan's doing with the music to the health stuff. It's just like switching over gears to another passion. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, it just has to be stuff that you care about, and that's really where the difference falls. But I mean, I hope you guys loved this one. She's just so fascinating, and I hope that like once she's got her new CDs or whatever it is that she's trying to accomplish with this next chapter, we will get to talk to her again.
I love understanding the other side of her, because being a fan of hers, like you hear her music, and her music is like so like sexy and like passionate, and then you talk to her and obviously she just sounds like one of our friends we'd be like hanging out with. I love like the different sides, and it really shows like how creative people and all of us in general are such like complete paradoxes.
Yeah, I hope you guys, after you listen to this, you just download Cedar and Gold and like really enjoy. And then even just her duets with, or her collaborations with Jason Mraz and G-Love, like you can feel every bit of where she was in these phases she's talking about. So it's pretty cool. I mean, I feel like even just going through Jason Mraz's hits and going back to what she was talking about is like a funny walk down memory lane when you start to actually see what was going on in their lives.
Yeah, it's like, super cool hearing her talk about him like from that perspective, because you can totally relate to her just dating this weird dude tripping out on shrooms in like San Diego, and like for us he's like this famous rock star that we know all the lyrics to.
Yeah.
And he actually has, his lyrics are on your wedding ring.
On my wedding ring.
So it's like we have that side of it. Yeah, sorry, Tristan. Your ex's lyrics are on my wife's ring. Sorry about that. But anyway, awesome. This was great. I'm like so excited. I'm so like bummed at ourselves for like screwing up the or having screwed up internet connection. I'm so pissed at Comcast. Screw you, Comcast.
I know. Sorry about that, guys. I hope you stuck with it. It was a really amazing interview. If you could weed through a little bit of the static, but.
All right, cool. Well, we'll catch you guys next week. We have some really total flip-flop next week with topics like
astrophysicists coming on, which my brain still hurts from. So,
all right, guys, have a great one.
Thanks, guys. We hope you loved that episode. If you did love it and could give us some love on iTunes, that would be amazing. You can leave a review and we will give you a shout out at some point on this podcast.
Also, if you guys can follow us on social media, we would love to hear from you. We are on pretty much every social media platform at Shifting Perceptions Podcast, which is the same as our website, shiftingperceptionspodcast.com. We look and reply to all comments, so please share with your friends, tag us. We appreciate all the love.
And don't forget that all of our guests also see all these comments, so I'm sure if you want to just have a space you can reach out, these are the places to do it. We also want to give some love to our amazing photographer that has done all of our photos so far,
Kevin Rigby.
His website is wavelightstudio.com.
And also our really good friend John Harvey, who did the music for our podcast. You can find him at Instagram at Harvey Wallbanger. So that's our little rolling credits. We will be back next week.